So I got asked a really interesting question the other day, and I think the answer is one of the keys to understanding success. So for context, I was talking with one of my colleagues who wanted to pick my brain on some of the new ventures he was starting. We were at a coffee shop. It was a cold, wet, rainy day. We were sitting there and kind of discussing the things he was interested in. And he had this sort of vast array of different interests, a lot of visionary, changing the world sort of stuff. And, 5 years ago, I would have been so excited. I would have tried to make every one of his ideas a reality. And I guess that when he asked this question, it really was something that I was prepared to answer in that time. But 5 years ago or 2 years ago, or even, 6 months ago, I would not have really been ready to answer that question. So here's what he asked. He said, Cam, do you think it's better to try to change the world, try to change the systems, or do you think it's better to try to manipulate and work within the systems that exist? That is such a fantastic question. And my answer really came out of a lot of the different wrestling against societal forces that I've been doing over the past, 5 or 10 years. And so I said something back that I think really encapsulates the core of what we need to optimize for. I said, okay, depends on what you need. Because if you really want to change the world, if you want to change society, if you want to look at these negative cons that come out of the way that our societal hierarchy is set up, you are going to have a long road ahead of you, right? You may not want to count on the benefits from that being available for your generation. You can work tirelessly on it, and hopefully you will change the world for the next generation to appreciate and enjoy, right? That's how long it really takes to do something like that or bring that kind of systemic change about. So if your goal is to provide for and protect your family, if your goal is, okay, I need to make some money, I need some resources, I need a different kind of life for my family, I want to level up in my personal life, if that's your goal, you really are going to be more working within and manipulating the system that currently exists, right? Because you're not going to change it that fast, right? So if you have to count on results from changing the world, you're not going to get your results for a long time, and your family needs to eat this week, right? So one of the things I see a lot is people who have sort of this I'll change when the world changes mentality, right? It's ultimately this victim mentality. They see a lot of really negative things in the world and they say, oh, well, this is really, really bad and that's not fair and I don't want to work within this unfair system. And so they just kind of shrink back, they hang back, and they don't go for it. And as a result of that, they don't get any sort of rewards out of the system. And so the reality is that in a lot of cases, the system is imperfect. In a lot of ways, they're sort of difficult to rebalance or fix, right? So I have found that a lot of these things that we look at and we say, oh, that's so unfair, that's a serious con of the system. You kind of try to tweak that slider to fix it, and you end up accidentally adjusting other sliders that cause other pros and cons. And ultimately, a lot of stuff is the way it is because it's sort of been optimized by the laws of reality, right? And so to some extent, we have to play within the laws of those reality and within this unfair system. And really, you can choose to play the game and you can choose to succeed and, get good results for the people that you care about. Or you can choose to throw up your hands and be a victim and say, well, it's not fair, so I'm not going to play at all. And that's not a great approach to the game. But I do believe that we all have the opportunity to change the world, quote unquote. And that was sort of what I was on fire for years ago, right? When I came fresh out of college, I had a theology degree. I was going to be a youth pastor. I had a lot of really naive beliefs about the world. And I kind of got my head kicked in over the next few years as I realized that things weren't as simplistic as I thought. A lot of the things that I thought weren't true. And furthermore, it just took a lot more to change the world than I thought. So all of these, people who are kind of going out with these graduation speeches and saying, oh, I'm out to, light on fire and change the world and all that sort of thing. I'm really glad for their energy, but they can sometimes be a little naive. And when they get their head kicked in by the system, then they say, oh man, it's really too bad. It's unfair. it's not great. They shrink back, they pull back, and they don't have that drive to keep going. So I really want to say, okay, even if you have to manipulate and work within the system to take care of your family, I really don't want to lose that drive and that enthusiasm and excitement for making the world a better place. I just think it starts at a small level, working within these unfair, broken systems that, aren't always ideal, that have a lot of pros and a lot of cons, working within the laws of reality, the laws of physics, the laws of economics, and saying, okay, how can I make things better for myself? How can I make things better for my family? How can I make things better for the people who I'm in immediate contact with in my circle of influence? How do I make things better? And then from there, you can extrapolate and say, okay, I'm going to make this bigger. And only when you've really attended to your circle, when you've been responsible with that circle, can you really go outside and start to make a larger difference. But I really do think that, in a lot of cases, like systemic change takes so much time. So don't count on that change, the results of that change. Don't count on those results or, the system being fixed fast enough to give you results. That's going to be for the next generation. But let's do what we can do in the time that we're here.